Thanks for sharing and participating here. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We're talking today about how to fund your faith-based mission. And we have an amazing speaker on deck who has a plethora of things to share around this. We're going to be together for about an hour, and this is going to include a lot of hands-on work. That's why I've got that workbook link that I'm going to drop one more time in the chat box for you. You'll get the recording after the program, and please honor your personal needs, but we'd love to have you stick around to the very end to be participating in our raffle for today. A couple of key things you're going to leave this workshop with. You'll have an awesome template to map your organization's mission. This is going to be a great framework to just articulate your organization's unique mission and help you find more funding. You'll also get some new keyword strategies. This is really great to align your values with that kind of competitive edge when you're doing your grant searches. And lastly, all of you are going to get to leave with a custom-made list of good fit funding opportunities for your faith-based orgs. You'll be able to use Instrumentl's database to find, currently we have more than 24,000 active public and private funding sources for nonprofits in our database. For the 50% of you who haven't been to an Instrumentl event before, welcome. My name is Rachel. I'm one of the events and community managers at Instrumentl, and I run programs like this on a weekly basis. I come from the nonprofit sector, so I feel a lot of the pain points that folks experience on a regular basis when it comes to grant seeking, and I'm excited to bring folks together for learning and community around some of their grant seeking. And I'm so excited to introduce Danette. She has more than 10 years of experience in grant writing, emphasizing combining your organization's purpose with strategic fundraising, which is a huge component of her presentation today. She has been a corporate and foundation relations manager and a consultant to both the secular and faith-based nonprofit fields. She's a certified pro-level prompt engineer and an expert in ChatGPT optimization. So if you want to nerd out on any AI things, Danette's your gal as well. Danette, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's really it's an honor to be with all of you. I've been amazed by the chat and the organizations that are represented in this workshop. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for choosing the greater good. The world is a better place because you are all in it and you are working in your job. So it really is an honor. I'm going to respect your time, keep my presentation to around 30 minutes because I go to these workshops often as well. And my favorite part is finding the grant leads. So I'm going to make sure that we have a lot of time for that for you today.
So excited about that. I'm going to start us off with a quick chat box prompt, and then I'm going to send the slides over to Danette so she can get started. If folks wouldn't mind sharing in the chat box, what's one myth that you've encountered around grant funding for faith-based nonprofits? Maybe some of you have some lived experience in this category. If there are some myths that you struggled with relationship to your grant funding, think about a myth that's come up for you. And I'll have Danette kind of read aloud, maybe moderate some of those as she gets into her initial slides. Oh, it looks like we've got a lot coming in. Yeah, Tammy saying every faith-based org is also a church. That's an interesting myth. Yep.
And the common one that people don't want to fund faith-based organizations.
Absolutely. Sue's also saying faith-based grantors only give to those of the same faith denominations. That's an interesting myth as well. Yeah, these are great. Well, that's a great segue, Danette, into our first slide. And I'll kick it off to you so you can get rolling.
Okay, so first I want to start before we get into that. We're going to be talking about mission mapping after we go over these myths, but we're not going to be talking about rewriting your mission to please someone else. I want to teach you today how to translate your purpose into fundable language. So I want you to start thinking that way right now. Fundable language around your mission and nothing else. But first we're going to talk about these common myths. And the first one that is boy, I tell you what, I've been consulting with faith-based nonprofits for years. And if I had $1 for every time someone said, but we're faith-based, we can't get grants, I would have enough money for a large matching gift campaign. It could be incredible. So today we're gonna kick that myth, that faith-based unfundable myth, to the curb, and not gently. We're just gonna kick it to the curb. Bless its heart, it's gone, okay? So what are some more? Next slide, please. You must change your mission to fit grant requirements. We're going to talk in great detail about why that's not true. Next one. Grant funders won't support faith-based initiatives. That's a trigger for me. It's not true. We're going to talk about that as well. So many secular funders can and do support private and faith-based organizations, but they don't want to fund evangelization. And that part is true. But so is to compromise with your theology and your mission, is that okay? Next slide, please. Yes, it is, because language in your mission can adapt while your purpose stays holy. You want to focus on outcomes versus your beliefs. And St. Francis of Assisi said it best: preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. So next slide. It respects religious freedom and inclusivity. Now, being inclusive in your mission statement doesn't mean that you're hiding your faith. I want you to think about how it means reflecting the open arms of your faith in a language that others can understand. And also, it's aligned with legal and ethical guidelines. So I really want you to emphasize, I have a lot of experience with a lot of funders all over the country, and secular funders are not opposed to faith. They want to ensure their dollars support services versus evangelism. But that's fair, because it has to align with both legal and ethical guidelines. But it's something that you already do really well. You already serve everyone with dignity, regardless of belief. And so you let your actions speak louder than words. So it's just a matter of, does your mission reflect the fact that you do serve everyone? So you're not stepping away from your faith, you're stepping toward more partnerships and inclusivity and language. It should serve as a bridge versus a boundary. So I like to look at it as, what I tell people is, you're not watering down your faith when you realign your mission statement with secular funders. You're actually planting it where more people can see it grow. So when you use inclusive, funder-friendly language, instead of hiding your mission, you're helping it take root in new places. You're now making space for partnership, visibility, shared impact, all without losing what makes your work sacred. So when crafted with intention, your mission now becomes an invitation to be a part of something bigger. So what is mission mapping? So mission mapping, and I don't, can we put in the chat, how many of you have ever mapped your missions before? I'm curious to see. Okay, we have lots of no's, a couple yeses. That's great. I'm excited you'll learn something new today. So what is mission mapping? It is the intentionality. It's being strategic. It's a strategic process of connecting your programs and to a funder language. Now, we have reflections on the handout that Rachel put in the chat. So I suggest you can open those up. You can work along with not, you can fill it out or just use it as a guide. But I would really like for you to kind of start looking at those reflections and start thinking about, are there parts of your mission that you've never thought to frame as fundable before? And when you start thinking of like that, this is how mission mapping will now transform your grant strategy. So it helps you visualize your program. So your mission isn't just a statement on your website. It has to be, it's your powerful funding tool when it's clear and compelling, aligned with funder priorities. It opens doors, it builds trust, it attracts support. So the most important thing is that you really want to build connection through your mission. Your mission should build relationships with donors, volunteers, community partners. They have to see themselves in your cause. So mission map. So too often, oh, here's a chat. Okay, so drop one word in your chat that how you feel about your mission today after this small conversation around mission mapping. Oh, those are all great. Thanks, everybody. Well, I think a lot of you will agree that too often our mission sounds very good internally, but doesn't clearly communicate who we serve, how you serve, and why it matters. So mission mapping is going to help you transform how we do that today. And why it's crucial is because you're going to broaden your funding opportunity, improve search results for grant funding. Your applications will be more competitive, and you'll be able to secure more long-term funding. So we're going to go over identify core mission and programs, list programs, visualize your mission map, and align newly discovered keywords. We're going to go in detail about all these today, and these are all reflected in the handout. So let me grab my thing here. So the first thing is obviously mission statement. Is it clear, current, and is it compelling? Before you map your mission, it has to be clear. It has to show up in action. So ask yourself, what is the heart of your organization's purpose and who do you serve? What programs evolve around all those things that you do? And are you measuring and naming your success in grant-friendly terms? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So also talk about what impact do you constantly aim to make? So here's what I want to do. When you talk about your key programming, the key programs should bring your mission to life. So faith can be your internal compass, but the external narrative really needs to focus on community outcomes like increased literacy, reduced hunger, safer neighborhoods. Many faith-based organizations already serve people of all backgrounds. We've talked about that. That's a really important point to make. But your language should reflect that spirit of welcome. So using universal language of healing, belonging, service, restoration, it opens doors. And these are values rooted in faith and they're embraced by secular funders. And we will give examples about how that looks in regards to keywords and when you're looking for grants. So just remember that you're not pretending to be something you're not. You're showing how your values align with other people's goals, how you align with other people's passion. And that's forming a partnership. So you can visualize your mission by mapping it to real world impact by showing who you serve, how you serve it, and what changes because of your work. Again, I'm repeating myself, but it's worth repeating. So when you visualize your mission, this is kind of a really important step for me when I work with my clients and even in my work for the Greater Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. And the truth is that our brains process images 60,000 times faster than text. So if you're able to provide, a picture, if you can describe your mission through vivid examples, stories, simple charts, you're helping people remember and care about what they do. You'll actually take up space in their heads. People remember stories, people remember pictures. And so instead of saying we serve with compassion, show a graphic of meals in addition to that. Now I know some people are saying, but most grant applications, you have to have a portal and you can't put up pictures and things like that. Well, one thing to note is that what's becoming more best practice is an opportunity at the very end to upload additional information to help you with your case. And here's something, I've been writing grants for over 10 years. And last week I was writing a really very, very large grant for the Greater Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. And I've never seen this question before. And if you guys have heard this question, please put it in the chat. But I had to, after using numbers and narrative about our community impact, then I had to provide a number and narrative around other people our mission helps? And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Why I love that question was because now that was my opportunity to show my contrast. And you, with your beautiful faith-based, heart-driven work, have an extraordinary contrast with other people that you're looking to get grants from, because you do really incredible mission work. And so I was able to figure out on average how many kids are at home when someone brings their child in because they have to solve a crisis, teachers impacted, et cetera, and came up with just a really beautiful narrative and number. And so that also gives you talking points when you're meeting with donors and things like that. It's a different and new way to look at your mission. So I think we have an example. So this is an easy graphic. It's simple, but just to show how many meals and in the months, the incline, things like that. I just really like pictures and things. I think it's really important. So when you align your programs with recognized categories, you increase visibility, eligibility, and you stay true to your values. So after you identify your core programs, then you want to map each one to funding categories. So like who you serve, your impact can also be used in grant search formulas. So you can go on to the next one. So here's some examples of mapping out your programs and categories. So we have church-led food pantry, it would be faith-based, and after you mission map, it's hunger relief and food security. Transitional housing ministry can be homelessness prevention and housing access. After school Bible study and tutoring, youth development, education, and equity. Christian recovery groups, mental health, substance abuse, and youth prevention. And I'm going to go back to church-led food pantry. I know someone that runs a a faith-based food pantry in a small town. And we did an exercise about visualizing their mission. And it was quite extraordinary because we came to discover that because they give people groceries and food, there's several people that have been able to stay in their homes. So they're actually keeping people from becoming homeless because they provide food. They help with food insecurities. So when you map your programs and as you're visualizing your mission, you really try to take this 30,000-foot view and this ripple effect on what you're actually doing, because you're doing way more than you think you're doing. You're helping way more people than you think you're helping. And it just takes a little bit of really strategic thinking, of that impact, because it's extraordinary and there's funding to help you out. So when you're able to visualize your mission and map your programs, now you can align, now you have increased visibility, and now you open doors to new funding while staying true to your values. So funders are invested in the outcomes that you promise, trust, credibility, and future funding opportunities. But I really want you to think about taking the new map, the missions, the stuff that you've discovered in your mapping your mission, and now you can figure out the population. So for example, low-income families plus service type plus outcome. These all, if you're able to take these formulas and apply them to your mission, you're now going to realize, are we mentioning these in our mission? Are we visualizing our mission properly? Are we educating people about our mission properly? So Rachel, you can throw some other examples up there about these formulas. Think about your demographics, your issue area, your population, your program types, your needs that you are completing. So when you start to do this, you start to realize that your faith-driven mission often meets the same urgent needs that secular funders prioritize. Oh, Rachel, can you tell me what slide you're on right now?
Yeah, I'm on slide 44.
Okay. So make sure I don't get too, go ahead. I apologize. I'm going too fast because I want to make sure that we get to search for grants for you guys, but I'll slow down. Okay, so faith-driven missions often meet the same urgent needs that secular funders prioritize. So I'm going to talk about this again because this is so important. And it's all about community impact. Like I gave an example about the question that this foundation wanted to know about other people that our mission helps at the nursery. But if you're able to really figure out your community impact, another example is when we take children into our nursery, that keeps our families out of child protective services, which then helps other agencies because they can help other people. So I really want you to think about the ripple effect of what you do and who you're helping, because the who you're helping will open doors to new funding opportunities.
Yeah, that's a really great actually way for me to jump in here, Danette. We asked for some folks to go back to this kind of grant search formula slide. Could you kind of maybe use some of these examples and explain a little bit more here so folks can think about how this might apply to their organizations?
Yes, so let me see. I see. Yes, so for example, let me look for my notes here. I apologize. Too many notes. Okay, so what I use these search grant formulas for is because these force you to really have clarity around your mission. So for example, if someone reads your mission, would they be able to understand population, service type, and outcome? Or issue area, program type, and location? All these things are grant search formulas for clarity, and that then result in grant search words. So for example, if you have low-income families, parenting, education, and child well-being, we have a chart that's going to come up that shows all the different funding opportunities around those words. And if you use AI, you can put your formula into your AI and say, give me some grant keywords that I can use around this formula and around my organization, and it will do that for you. And now you have many new keywords. But this does, if you can't answer at least one or two of these questions to your mission, then your mission is not clear. Is that helpful?
Thanks, Danette. I'll jump us back to slide 45 here.
Okay. So when you are faith-rooted and works of community impact, and you all are, I want you to think about if you do have to change some wording in your mission. And I know for some people it's really hard. I work with Catholic schools and Catholic churches, for example. Sometimes it can be really difficult to try to adjust the wording of their mission, but you really can change your words and not compromise your values. Because if you really, once you start doing this mission matching exercise that's in the workbook, you're going to really start understanding about all the bridging, all the work that you do. That's exactly what funders want to support, because what you do is helping the community. Very important. So funders are investing in the outcomes that you promised. And so it is ethical to shift from faith-based to secular wording. You need to stay true to your mission. Obviously, your language can evolve, but changing your grant narrative to align with keywords to get funding, it's not about hiding your faith. So it's highlighting your shared goals. So the most important ethical thing is to do what you say you're going to do. And that's the next part about the integrity. So some people will think, well, is it okay for us to change, our mission and take out, faith-filled words? You don't even have to take out faith-filled words. Just make sure that you have some wording in there that will align with secular funding. And then do what you say you're going to do. That's an ethical obligation. That's the most important thing about grant writing. So here's some examples that you can come up with from the formulas. So if you have a homeless shelter, you have a community impact. So now once you go through your mission mapping worksheet, and you take, for example, homeless shelter, what is the community impact? What are you preventing? So you're helping with safety, family breakdown, homelessness. You could probably even put food insecurity in there. So what are some keyword opportunities? Those are homeless stability, homeless prevention strategies, safe shelter programs. So someone has a question about when someone is sharing a gospel. So that's a really, really good question. And you can absolutely, I think a lot of our faith-based nonprofits are doing their work to help Christ with his mission on earth, to share the love of Jesus. This is why it's okay, because you don't have to talk about like quoting a psalm or something in your mission. You want to talk about your outcome. You want to talk what you're preventing, and that's okay to do that. And Chris, someone at Christy's question. So Christy, I'd be happy. You can always send me an email later to talk more about different ways of working on your mission. I'd be happy to help you with that. And I think my email is on the workbook, because that's a very simple thing to do without compromising your faith. So does anyone have any questions about how this works with the keywords with your program, community impact? No, okay. So here's something that's really, really interesting. I really want you to think about when you're visualizing your mission and the work that you do, I want you to think about what the cost is of not supporting your faith-based mission. It's really quite extraordinary. We're going to talk about that a little later, but really think about what it would cost your community. And if you are an AI user, and if you have an optimized GPT or AI educated around your nonprofit, you can ask it that question. What would happen if we closed our doors today? How would that impact our community? And wow, it's really truly mind-blowing, because you are doing so much good work. You have no idea the extraordinary work that you're doing. And when you ask that question, and when you start to really map out the ripple effect of your work, it's really extraordinary. And I promise you, it will open up so many doors to new funders. So there's increased pressure on public systems, high impact service providers. You're keeping, if you're able to help someone in your church or in your organization, you're keeping people now from going to a public service or office for help. And now those are going away. So our work is more important than ever. And you really help with people with mental health strain and isolation, bringing on community. I would, if I were you, really try to decipher what is the cost of someone not supporting your nonprofit in your community. Really take some time with your team and talk about that, because that is a really great narrative, and you should have that someplace in your boiler template of your grant about that. It's also really good information just to include sometimes in your annual reports, impact reports, and et cetera. But you're doing really good work above and beyond. So now we're just going to go over a few things about what we've learned. So faith-based doesn't mean fund limited. So your mission strengthens the safety social net, and we're going to talk a little more about how much that does. It's really quite extraordinary about the number of people, the percentage, and how people would there'd be so many people homeless and suffering and hungry if you were not doing the work that you do. So you strengthen the social service net, and the cost of community is extraordinary. It's not just financially, it's emotionally, it's structural. I'm really excited for you to work that, to map that out, and to really discover what you are preventing from happening in your community. And it's going to be a lot of keywords that come out of that, and a lot of new secular funding opportunities. So remember that what the funders want, they want to strengthen their communities and prevent future problems and lift other nonprofits. So you want to be able to in someplace in your mission, show that you are strengthening your community and the work that you're doing. That's very, very important. And that's how you align with the secular funders. As I said earlier, and it's worth repeating, they don't want to fund you because you're faith-based. They want to make sure there's money, that their money is going to help everybody. And that's what your work does. Your work does help everybody. So you want to make sure that your mission is being truthful about the work that you do. That's not just all tied into your theology, but it's tied into your outcome. And when it's tied into your outcome, then that's when you get new funding opportunities. So this is an example of your impact. So I'm really just blown away by the work that faith-based nonprofits do. And you're so crucial in mental health. So in Texas, for example, 78% of African Americans, Latino respondents, 64% go to their ministers for mental health support. And can you imagine if they didn't have their ministers? And a lot of them might go to the ministers because they're afraid to go someplace else, because they're afraid they might not be documented or what have you. They need your help. So this is extraordinary number, and it's just amazing. And I want you to find out what your mission is doing around these different areas. Try to find percentages and numbers. So if you look at it, that nonprofits provide 40% of human service spending in your city. So that's what I'm talking about. And that is what secular funders care about, because you are doing that. And I just think that if once you find that out and you're able to tie in what that outcome is, and now you put that in your mission, you're going to align with funders you never dreamed possible. Yeah, so look at this, $1.2 trillion annually that we give to the country by helping people, healthcare, social services, food insecurities, education. You should pat yourselves on the back. It's really quite extraordinary. So here's your call of action. You have the handbook, you have the workbook. If you have questions, open invitation, send me an email. I will gladly help you. I care really a lot about what you're doing. And I really believe that mapping your mission is going to make an incredible difference to find new funders. So revisit your mission, reframe your language as all the points we talked about, and then find your new alignment, and then step boldly into new funding opportunities. You can do it. It's really exciting. So I'm going to give one pro tip. This is obviously Instrumentl sponsored workshop, but I've been going to Instrumentl workshops many times before I started being a subscriber of their service. And for me, I consider AI and Instrumentl as my most essential business partners. And I actually subscribe to Instrumentl, and that's my donation to my nonprofit where I work, because I would never find, I can honestly say, half the grants that I do without the help of Instrumentl. It's really quite extraordinary.
Thanks so much, Danette. We got through a lot, and I'm going to show a couple of people were asking, how can I actually find some of these opportunities? So I'm going to show a little bit of a sneak preview for folks, and you can actually follow along with me and find some new opportunities right away. We're going to be applying some of the skills that Danette just set us up with. Mainly, I'm thinking about some of the keyword brainstorming that you've just done. If anyone missed it, I also want to make sure I drop one more time the link to the workbook in the chat. This is a document that you're going to be able to keep and hold on to and use how you want to. So I know we sped through kind of the step-by-step process there, but it's all listed out exactly what was on the slides in your workbook. So don't worry, don't stress if you didn't have time to go through each step at this moment. This is your overview, and then you can always go back and fill this in, maybe even work on this with your team. If you have kind of like a quarterly planning meeting or something, this is a great resource for you to continue to use. I'm glad to hear it, Leslie. I know Danette is just such a powerhouse of information. So there's a lot to cover. And I want to get us all taking a look at some of the potential matches based on some of this keyword, this mission mapping that we're working on, and see faith-based and secular funding opportunities within Instrumentl. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat box. For folks who are already users of Instrumentl, you can actually open up your project and start, editing some things based on some of the content that we just shared with Danette, and I'll show you some best practices there. For folks who are new to Instrumentl, you'll click this special link. So it's just this link. Don't go to instrumentl.com. Click the link in the chat box, because this will give you special access to go right into our funder database. Usually if you go through the website, you're going to have to go through a process first, talking with a grant advisor. I'm going to be your advisor today alongside Danette. So you can actually jump ahead if you go through this link here. You'll actually see our website pop up. You're going to click this try 14 days free. You'll enter the usual information that you're going to be prompted for any account sign up. I want to clarify too, there is no strings attached with this. You are getting access to Instrumentl. You don't even have to put a credit card down. It's just 14 days free. So I encourage you to explore. There literally is, no downside. You're going to be able to walk away with new funding opportunities right away. So you'll go through and fill out this form. When you get to a screen that invites you to schedule a kickoff call, that's the kind of call I was talking about with the grant advisor. Because you use our special link, you will actually be able to skip that for today. If you ever want to go back and schedule time with these folks, they are really knowledgeable about maybe narrowing down some of these searches. Oh, thank you, Nia. Sorry about that. And you can check that out. Let's make sure this link works, because I want to have folks be able to follow along with me. Oh, and Dave, that is a great question. I am copying that for our Q&A right now, so we don't forget to ask that one. Let's make sure. Oh, yay. Sharon says the link worked. Awesome. Alex, if you save this link, it will work for the next 2 weeks, but you'll want to use it within that time frame. But just make sure to save the specific link. And I'll drop that again in the chat just for folks who are wanting to follow along here. All right, I'm switching over to Instrumentl on my screen. So when folks have filled out their initial info, they've started their trial, you'll be able to create your first project. There might be a couple of prompts that happen before this, including things like what your fiscal year is and your organization name, but you're going to get to this project setup page. I see your question, Yulia. I'll get back to you on that. I'm going to write a note here that you're having trouble logging in, so we can add that back. Awesome. So I'm set up an example based on actually a program that Danette was looking to get funded. So here we're editing our project. I've indicated my project name. This is going to be Faith-Inspired Youth Development and Education. One of our cool new features in Instrumentl is that you'll actually be able to copy and paste a program description, and then Instrumentl is going to source some of those grant-related keywords that we were just brainstorming directly for you. So this is also good inspiration. If you're like, hey, I don't even know where to start with some of this keyword generation, you can use Instrumentl to draft some of the best fit keywords that you should be searching when you're looking for grants for your faith-based organization. For example, this program is looking for funding to support academic enrichment, mentorship, and leadership development programs for underserved youth in a faith-based setting. This includes after-school tutoring, summer learning, and values-based character education. So when you paste that into Instrumentl here, it'll generate proposed keywords. So it's analyzing the description now. And then you can select the ones that you feel like are the best fit. I already pre-set up this project, so it's given me a couple already, right? Academic success and enrichment, after school and summer educational programs, educational access and equity, tutoring and mentoring, and youth development and leadership. Yeah, let's zoom in here. I can do that. Let's see. There we go. Is that a little easier to see? You can go ahead and also add keywords manually. So if you're like, oh, I'm looking for another keyword, maybe just education more broadly, you could type that in and then add education as one of yours. You can also add, so say it also said, oh, youth services, we can add that in as well. I'm the project lead here, so I'm indicating myself, and then I want to see matches and tracking. I want to see new grant funders and opportunities, plus I want to track those grants. So then you'll click next. This next page is going to dive in a little deeper on what the funding is actually going to be used for and your applicant types. This is where we get into some of the nitty-gritty of looking for faith-based organizations specifically. So if you are a nonprofit, you're going to indicate that here. Since we're talking about faith-based missions today, you can specifically see grants for faith-based organizations. So here you would click yes. When you do that, it's going to drop down some more information. So it's going to invite you to share if your organization is a house of worship. Say I'm looking for funding on behalf of a church. You can also indicate what kinds of grants you would like to see. You can look for grants that are for both faith-based and secular. You can look for faith-based only or secular only. So make sure you indicate that there. And then you can indicate your religious affiliation. I'm going to indicate that we're a Christian church at this point in time. Then we'll talk about the areas your project serves. For this example, I looked at the state of Minnesota. So you can indicate the county or state that your service areas cover. And then you'll look for the size of grants. For this program, I was looking for a minimum of $10,000. So that means I don't want to see any grants that would fall under that range. And I don't have a maximum. You can edit this based on the parameters for your grant search. And then you're going to indicate what you'll use the funds for. This one is for education and a specific program, but you might be looking for training or capacity building grants, or maybe you're just looking for general operating, which tends to be a kind of tricky spot to find, right? You can go ahead and indicate those filters here and the type of funders you'd like to see grants from. For this example, I've nixed federal government for today just because there's a lot going on there, but I do want to see corporate foundations. I know someone asked about that. I want to see associations, private foundations, and any state or local government grants. Then you'll click Save and Exit. For folks that are setting up their first project, there will be one more screen that pops up, and it'll invite you to invite a team member to join your project. So you can do that at this time if you'd like as well. And then you'll see I'm already in my matches. So Instrumentl found, let's see, opportunity matches, 335 potential funding opportunities related to the parameters that I just set up. So we can take a look here, and I'll actually invite Danette to pop back on the screen. If you want to share, maybe some things that you look for when you're kind of assessing some of the quality of the opportunities, we can take a look at maybe the Russell Foundation.
Yeah, why don't you click on the Russell Foundation? So the vetting is really important. I always like to click through and find out what states do they typically give money to. Can you show them how that works, Rachel? Because that's really an amazing service.
Yes. So there's both going to be on this tab here, an opportunity tab that refers to the grant or the funding opportunity that you're looking at. And then there's the funder report. So this pulls information from the 990s. You can see them all as PDFs here. And it just cleans it up a little, makes it a little easier to see. What Danette is referring to is a map that shows where these funders have given. Yeah, this is what you're referring to, right?
Yeah. So I always look for that. I love the fact that the 990 is right there. It's just so amazing to be able to pull up a potential funder and able to check their 990 past giving and et cetera. And if you could scroll up a little bit, Rachel, the other things I look for right away that are helpful. I love to know the median amount, but you can also look at who they've given awards to. So then you can see, is there an organization that aligns with the work that you do? Are there other churches? Are there other schools, et cetera? I've been really, really pleasantly surprised when I've done this to find grants that would align that I never would have dreamed would align till I dug into it. And I wouldn't have dug into it, I'll be honest, without this efficient way of doing it. So
Yeah.
the vetting on Instrumentl is extraordinarily time saving.
It's helpful, right? I mean, you could do this work manually and you can go through those 990s. I'm sure you remember those days for
Oh yeah, horrible.
information. But having it cleaned up and having it, year over year, able to assess really quickly is definitely, I think, a huge perk.
And I think also being able to right off the bat look for the median grant amount that they give is really helpful.
that'll definitely decide for you whether or not the opportunity is worth spending time on, right?
Yeah.
One other kind of key piece of information I always like to highlight is this openness to new grantees. So if you're putting a grant out there to a funder you've never submitted to before, you can get a sense of how competitive this is going to be. So it looks like, let me go back up here. That's the amounts. Okay, here we go. Openness to new grantees, total giving. It looks like about 33% of this funder's awards are going to new grantees, which is actually pretty good. We say anything under 30% starting to get pretty competitive, but over 30%, gives you kind of a little bit of a foot in the door for those new opportunities. Kimberly, I see a question in the chat. Where is the application information, deadlines, etc.? Yeah, so in Instrumentl, for folks who haven't seen this before, there are these 2 tabs. So when you click on an opportunity, you're going to look for the actual grant information. That's in this opportunity tab. That's where you're going to see the grant amount, the deadline. This is where Instrumentl is also connecting with your fields of work. So that kind of keyword exercise that I did at the very beginning of setting up the project, this is why this grant is showing up based on these keyword matches. You can also see a quick 990 snapshot, and then it pulls an overview of the grant based from the funder's website. So you can take a closer look and make sure this is actually in alignment. If you like this grant and you're like, hey, I don't want to lose track of this, you want to make sure to save it. So that's this big red button here at the bottom. You can write a note to yourself if you want to remember why you saved it, and you'll click save here. And then if you're like, where did that go? I want to make sure I track that. That goes into your tracker. So you now see I have a number 1 next to it. That's because this grant has been added to the tracker related to the specific project. Awesome. Okay, we have 10 minutes left and there are a lot of questions. So I want to make sure we get to those as well. If there are any more Instrumentl related questions, I just saw Gloria asked, is Instrumentl good for an organization that is not faith-based? Absolutely. When I set up my project, I indicated I was looking for searches for both faith-based and secular, but you do not have to indicate that if you are looking for mostly secular or solely secular funding. All right, let's head back to our slides. Let's talk a little bit about questions, Danette. I'm going to moderate a few that came up in the chat. And then if folks have others that have come up, please feel free to drop them in. I've been trying to keep track as we go, but I know there are a lot of folks with questions in the chat. So copy paste them if I missed yours. Anat was asking, how do we show that our services are not all around faith-based and are open to everyone? Maybe there's some reiteration there of some of the kind of key goals you were talking about.
Oh, you mean so in your mission, you mean? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think, how do we show to funders that our services are not all around faith-based?
If you focus on your outcomes, if you focus on population served and outcomes, boom, that's it. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of faith-based organizations, they don't focus on their outcomes. And so, and plus, if you focus on your outcomes, you're still staying true to your faith as well, because your faith is what drives your work, which is drives the outcomes. So that's the magic formula: population served and your outcomes.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I'm going to go back to this. You highlighted a couple of ways you can use these formulas. Actually, if anyone wants to screenshot this slide, I know we have the information also in your workbook, but this is a really good tool. I've never seen these kind of formulas used before, but Danette has outlined all these different ways, right? Can you take population plus service type plus outcome, right? This is making sure that those search formulas are highlighting ways that your faith-based organization is serving your community and focused again on the outcome piece. Okay, let's see. We had a couple other questions here. I'm jumping back, sorry. Arnold was asking, how do legal and ethical guidelines kind of connect with faith-based funding? You talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but what are some of those kind of legal and ethical guidelines we need to be aware of?
Well, I just think for ethical, you don't want to have a mission, and you don't want to say something that's not true. So you want to make sure that you can do what you say you're going to do, that your work matches your mission, and that your outcomes match the outcome you promise. So I think a lot of people worry about Well, if we're faith-based and we're asking a secular person, a really good example is a Catholic school that I've worked with before that needed help with, that wanted some funding for an after-school program and had to check off all these boxes. And I explained that the funder knows that you're a private school. It's clear you're applying under your school. But so you don't have to reemphasize your theology and things in your mission because it's already clear. And so I helped her with the mission, and we helped with their language and their narrative, staying very, very true to their theology, but focusing on their outcome. And she got the grant. And I was staggered because she got the grant above and beyond what I even dreamed she could get. But it was really quite extraordinary. Here's another thing to think about when we talk about the ripple effect and going beyond how we help a community. I helped another school, several of you help immigrants, and thank you for that really important work. And with some of our schools that take immigrant students, we actually, this is another AI input, but we actually used our chat, told them in our community how many children we serve that are immigrants from this certain community. And then we said, how does their experience in our school help their parents assimilate into the community? And wow, it was extraordinary. Now we had a bunch of other funding opportunities and potential keywords. But that's also, again, focusing on the outcome of your work. You need to think about, you serve these demographics. What does that mean? What does that mean when 40% of the people you serve are Latino immigrants who are English second language? How are you helping the community? What is that outcome? It's way beyond what you think you're doing. You are doing so much good and you don't realize it. So just focus on your outcome, and then your mission will be fundable.
I think that's great advice and something to continue to reiterate. Okay, we have two more quick questions and I want to make sure we get through these. Dave is just curious, what AI tools would you recommend that we could educate our nonprofit about, so we could ask questions like what would the impact be if our nonprofit didn't exist? I thought that was such a great prompt.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I'm just going to give a little pitch for me because I actually give workshops, Zoom and what have you, about how to use AI in grant writing and in advancement in general. And I am a good deal because I believe in your work. But all you need is ChatGPT. And I explain that in my workshops because ChatGPT does, if you know how to use it, does everything that all these other things are trying to sell you to do. So you can take ChatGPT. You can take my whole workbook, put it in your optimized ChatGPT, and have it fill it out. And wow, I always tell people to duct tape their heads because it's going to explode because it's really, really exciting. It's really exciting at the new opportunities. And then you take those things and you pump them into Instrumentl. And I was just telling Nia and Rachel that just this week alone, I think I got found five new grants, but last week we got 3 new grants come in that were brand new. We actually got awarded that I never would have found without Instrumentl. So once you're able to, map your mission, really focus on your outcome, get these new keywords, it's really good to have another tool that is smarter than we are, which would be, Instrumentl in regards to grants. So
I love that. Okay, one more really quick question. Do you happen to know your rate of kind of how many grants you get awarded versus how many you're applying for? Like, what's your current kind of ratio there? Do you have a sense?
like for me, oh my gosh, I think I get awarded probably like 95% of my grants.
Wow, that's an amazing.
But that's because they're vetted really well, and I have a really good boiler template for my clients and for the Greater Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. So I'm happy to help anybody get there. But if you have if you're using the right resource, and if your mission is focused on outcomes, and if you're able to draw a contrast to your organization, then you will have a high rate as well. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, there is your contact information in the workbook. I will also be sending your contact information as a part of our follow-up. So everyone that's on this webinar or who registered will get information on how to connect with Danette. Thank you so much for spending time with us. There's just not enough time in an hour to cover all the possibilities here, but I know we'll be inviting you back to the Instrumentl stage for other events. So keep
No, it's been
your
fun. And again, thank you. Thanks to all of you for your work. You guys really, really matter. So thank you so much. It's an honor.
Truly so meaningful. Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
As a quick kind of last piece here, if you want to win some coffees on Instrumentl, we'd love to hear one thing you took away from this experience today. If there's something that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to go back to my board right now and talk about this, do some of our mission mapping, we'd love to hear it. So Nia's going to drop a link in the chat for you to go over to LinkedIn. You can comment there, and then I'll pull anyone who comments on LinkedIn into our raffle pool. 3 of you will win coffees on us. As a thank you for spending your time with us today. We really want to hear a little bit more about what you took away from the program. In line with that as well, we'd love to hear your feedback. So if you respond to the feedback form, it'll actually be the thing that happens when I close this webinar. It'll automatically pop up for you. You'll get an extra raffle entry. So please share what you thought of the program today. We'd love to hear your experiences. This is our first time kind of diving into this content area as well. So if there is more things you'd like to see around this content, please let us know in the feedback form. Always a pleasure being with you. We have some more events coming up. Next week, I'm talking a little bit about how to engage the right funder. So if you folks have more questions about some of that funder engagement piece, I encourage you to hop over to that one. We also have an AI for Grant Pros session with Meredith Noble happening at the end of this month. If you haven't already, you can RSVP for our future programs at this link right here. Otherwise, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much again for being with us today. I'm Rachel. If you need to reach out to us, Nia and I are always available. You can email us at events@instrumentl.com. You'll get the recording, the slides, links to the workbook again, and the link to sign up for Instrumentl that I dropped in the chat box earlier if you are saving it for a moment to start within the next 2 weeks. Thank you, Tammy. Great to see you in the room. Thanks, Leroy. Emily, thank you all so much. If you have further questions that didn't get answered in this program today, feel free to shoot us an email, and we can always ping Danette and ask her to follow up on some things that I'll send to the crew who registered. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, Kate. Great being with you all. We'll see you next time.